form number 5, you were asked to give a distinction between the 3 types of social capital. And social capital is basically saying that you have these individuals' resources, human resources. So now we're not talking about finances, we're not talking about property, we're not talking about things of that nature. We're talking about who do you have in your influence and your surroundings that you could pull upon. So we're talking about these human resources, this social capital. You're in need of someone to do some work for you. You're in need of someone to volunteer. You're in need of someone to babysit. Wherever it may be, who can you call upon? Who's your social capital? And there were 3 types of social capital that the book talked about. And those were bonding, bridging, and linking. Now bonding, and the easiest way to remember bonding, just think about most bonds that you have with individuals. In order to have a bond with a person, you have to be close to that person. So think of close in proximity as well as close as far as emotional speaking and things of that nature, socially and economically speaking. You're close as far as living in the same neighborhood. This is the capital, the bridge. This is the capital, the link that you have with someone, the network that you have with someone who is part of your own community. So think within a family structure. The husband, the wife, the children, they all have bonding capital because they are linked together through the family. Think within a certain school system, the students to one another, that would be bonding. And within a church setting, the congregation to one another, that would be bonding. These are the networks that you have that are kind of peer-to-peer with your contemporaries. In other words, the book describes it as a horizontal, reaching across network. Someone who's on my level, we have some similar things in common as far as economically and things of that nature. We have some similar goals in mind. We live in the same neighborhood, so we want to see the same things for our neighborhood. How we reach out to one another, in time of need, that would be how do we access that bonding social capital. And some of you talked about Gator's examples between the relationships between you and your classmates, or the relationship between family members or congregants in regards to social capital. Bridging capital, and the easiest way to remember that, bond, close. When you're closely, there's a bond. When something's a little bit more distant, yet still on an even playing field, to get from one place to another place, you may have to build a bridge. Same thing as far as this concept. Now you're saying, well, from one family to another family, from one church to another church, from one school to another school, from one neighborhood to another neighborhood. Here are individuals that where we're on similar footing, but we're just in different locations. And maybe the resources that we have at our school differs from the resources you have at your school, so we do a little barter system. Maybe think about in agricultural and rural America, and you had close-knit families. And maybe one family owns a lot of livestock and another family owns more farmland as far as produce. And they barter with one another. We give you some of this if you would give us some of that. That would be this bridging capital. Here's when you look at others who are on your level but in a different location, and you say, hey, what do you got going on over there that may benefit us, and vice versa. And the last one we talked about was linking. And the easiest way to think about this is when you're trying to get future employment, things of that nature, and you're trying to get yourself out there as far as networking, there's a site called LinkedIn. And this is when people can see your resume and things of that nature and possibly hire you. And so now here's when there's this vertical relationship. It's not just simply, it could be within the same community. It could be I'm in one community and you're in another community. So that's not what's important. What's important is there's this hierarchical relationship. There's someone at a lower position, there's someone at a higher position, and this linking capital would be, hey, let me call on this person in a higher position. So think about times when we're in need and we need a reference, or for some of us who are missionaries and you need to raise support, and it pays off to know someone who owns their own business or something like that. So think about those relationships you have where it's not exactly peer-to-peer, but here's someone who may be further along in a particular area than you, and in that particular area you may call upon their expertise. And so in other areas, maybe they may call upon you, and you may be the one who has a little bit more power. And so don't just think of financially, although finances is a big part of it, but just think of maybe someone has a little bit more clout in a particular neighborhood, and you want to call upon them to get you linked in with someone, and they're going to put in a good word for you. Or maybe they do have more money than you and you need to get support for some reason. Or maybe they're the person who does the hiring and you want them to put in a good word to see if they can get you hired. Whatever it may be, it just denotes that there's this hierarchical relationship, that there's some who are above some others in particular aspects, who have a little bit more power or clout or resources in particular aspects, and you're simply calling upon that person to help you out in that regards. And so it's rarely clear cut all the time that this is a person. It changes between contexts. Like I said, in some contexts, you may be the person reaching up to them. In other contexts, someone may be reaching up to you. It just depends on perspective. All right, so this is Professor Williams.